Oh yeah. The camera seems to be very sensitive, so I hope it doesn't get washed out again like last time. Anyway, people, this video, this is something I've noticed with ancient mysteries in general. I'll put that there so I don't look as fat. How about that? That's better? Right. Why aren't we as interested in European cathedrals as we are, say, in Asian temples? There are lots of ancient mystery videos about Asian temples. So many. Exotic Asian temples, pyramids, Egyptian temples. And yet in Europe, we have these amazing marble and stone edifices harkening back to a lost religion, because if you look at Catholicism, much of it is actually the previous Roman religion that was practiced in Rome with the Christianity superimposed on top. And we don't really study these so much. And I want to encourage people just to study them, because there is so many mysteries, there are so few books about them, and they are so little studied. And I want to tell you why I think it's a really nice idea to study these buildings. For starters, they all point, now they supposedly point east-west, all these churches. So they're harkening back to the old days of sunrise worship, right? Easter itself might be named after the East, as I've hypothesized in a video. Maybe yes, maybe no. Now, what I wanted to say was, that's not quite true. All of these churches actually point in different directions. And so you have to think, okay, why is that? And they all actually venerate a different aspect. They've all chosen a different aspect of Christianity to really focus on. For example, they might point to the sunrise of a birthday of a particular saint. And we think, well, that's really interesting. Now, I really want you to study these places. When I went to, and I'll tell you why, they're all different. And some of them are really weird. When I went to Temple Church in London, I thought this was one of the most exciting places I've ever been. It's in a former bankers area. It's called the Embankment. Now it's a legal area. There are these, I think is it near Paternoster Lane? Or I'm not sure, I can't remember. Or it's near Lombard Street, which is where the moneylenders were. And I walked down that street thinking, wow, this is really interesting. But it would have been different back in the day. It looks fairly close. It's a narrow medieval street. It looks pretty closed up. But now it's it's near that pillar, the Embankment, I believe, Temple Church. And it is amazing. There is a sarcophagus sticking out of the ground, a medieval sarcophagus, and little cemetery next to it, and a few ruins, remnants of the Templar days, which they've preserved. And you go inside, and this church is round. It's round. The Templars practiced a different type of Christianity to many others, and they picked this up possibly on the Mediterranean islands, or they picked it up elsewhere. And as a result, there's these round churches. Now, you do see an aspect of this in cathedrals. You will see a dome. So in some ways, the Templars are just making their whole church look like just that dome that you see on the very big churches, or the Byzantine East Roman churches. So they're in some ways, they're just copying the East Roman churches. So the dome is important. That's what they're focusing on, or the roundness of the church, rather than making it in a cross shape as in Western Europe. So anyway, you go into this, and there's actually lots of these temple churches and temple ruins in Western Europe. And you see so much. I encourage you also to go into the main churches of small towns, or the secondary churches of small towns all over Europe. You will see even pagan-like things. I walked into one church in Poland, former German part of Poland, and I was confronted with a stag's horns hanging down from the ceiling as I entered. And I thought, okay, this place is a little bit different, isn't it? And there was an edifice of Jesus, except he wasn't Jesus. He was Jesus, but as a pagan god. And he was carved into the wood and what was happening was the wood was piercing through him and going in and out like that. And I thought, that's different. It's like they've taken an earlier God and they've mixed him with Jesus. That's different. That's interesting. Saw another photo. In a German church this time. This was a church in Germany, in Soest, town of Soest in I think it's Westfalen. And wow, this church, it had the Holy Family, Mary and Joseph. And above them, I believe it had a picture of God, except there was a man, and he was with a woman as well. That's interesting. Who's that? Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. So, and these are old paintings, old carvings. So, when you explore churches, you are exploring you're not just exploring boring Christianity, you're exploring our pagan temples as well, because that's what these are based upon. Because when they set these up for the first time, even a long time ago, they had to blend. They had to mix with the existing people. They had to mix with the existing beliefs, or there would have been a social disruption. And even as recently as several centuries ago in the Middle Ages, the gods in Europe were quite different. Not everyone was Christian, and the gods in the small areas were still local gods. And these have blended into the church iconography. So when you're exploring a church, you're exploring one of the biggest ancient mysteries there is, because you're in there and you don't know anything about the people who built it, how it was built, why it looks like the way it does, which ways it's facing astronomically. There is so much to discover. There's more. It's possible that Masons were employed to build churches, Freemasons. I'm wondering if these people were employed. We all know that the Freemasons champion the fact that they've built temples of Solomon and so forth. And they model every one of their lodges on the Temple of Solomon to show they're the Solomon builders. Now, I wonder if these people were not actually employed also to build churches. And if so, what information have they encoded in these churches? So anyway, there's something you might want to look into. Local cathedrals and churches, and they're all amazing. Even the ones here in Australia, they're based on European models and designs. So they encode so much wisdom and knowledge as well. So guys, hope you appreciated that video, a little discussion on the churches. Cheerio.